Okay, there's reasons that the daughter may have been kidnapped. Husband Frank, the professor, has been doing some very naughty things and got the wrong people mad. So this is later that evening after Frank, who's more than a little abusive, had stormed out of the house after supper, and Marge, Mrs. Markham, is at home, alone. She had not cried for long. Long ago she had learned to stop it, to hold it in where it wouldn't show. At least this time Frank had just left the house. Nothing had happened. He would be gone until nearly morning if he followed his usual pattern after one of these episodes. She never knew where he went. She was just glad he was gone. She had gone upstairs to bed and was reading when she heard the noises in the kitchen. She checked the bedside clock, 10 o'clock. Frank was back earlier than she had expected. She set her book down on the bed and got up. She had better make sure he was all right. She slipped her robe on and went downstairs. Marge walked quietly down the stairs without turning the light on. No sense rousing Frank's anger if he is one of those moods. If he was, she'd just slip as quietly back up the stairs and back to bed. If he had settled down, maybe they could talk. Maybe this time she could fix it. The light from the kitchen down the hall gave the sitting room an eerie effect, with the shadows seeming almost to come alive. Marge shivered. At the bottom of the stairs, she turned and walked toward the kitchen. She stopped at the end of the hall, uncertain whether to go on. There was a lot of crashing and banging in the kitchen. Maybe she would be wiser to go back to bed. She decided to take a chance. As she stepped into the kitchen doorway, she stopped dead, unsure what to do next. A man all in black was dumping all her drawers and cupboards as though he were looking for something. The arm around her neck was a complete surprise. From somewhere farther back in the house, someone had come up behind her and now held her tightly. She could feel something prod her side, a knife, perhaps. "Move," said the man who held her as he pushed her forward into the kitchen. The man said something in Chinese, too fast for her to understand, and the other man placed a kitchen chair in the middle of the room. "Sit," said the man who held her, and he let go his grip. "Sit there and put your hands behind the chair." Marge just stood there, unable to believe it wasn't all a bad dream. 30 years with Frank had been enough to warn her when she was in jeopardy. She knew now she was in danger. But it wasn't the same as with Frank. Frank's anger was irrational and a past. She sensed no anger here, only a terrible sense of purpose. "Sit now, Mrs. Markham. I don't want to have to hurt you." She sat. Meanwhile, the other man had been ripping cords from electric appliances. Now he tied her arms and legs, then tied her to the chair as well. She looked around her. The kitchen was all torn apart. A third man had come in while she was being tied up. The three wore black like a uniform: shoes, slacks, pullover sweaters, gloves, and ski masks. They moved efficiently, too, cat-like, with no waste motion, like the red Chinese military Frank told her he'd seen in Tibet. Yet something in their manner told her these men drew their discipline not from love of country, but from fear. That fear was in her. "Where are they?" The man who had held her moved in close and asked again. "Where are they, Mrs. Markham?" "Where or what? Tell me what you want." "The jewels, a collection of jewels your husband stole." "Where, Mrs. Markham?" "I don't know what you're talking about. Frank never stole any jewels. He's a professor, an anthropologist." "Try harder, Mrs. Markham. Remember where it is and tell me. It will be better for everybody that way." "I don't know." "Then think about this. By not telling us, you may die. First, though, Susan will die in great pain. Then, if you still refuse to tell us, you will die the same way." He paused as though for dramatic emphasis, and the other two moved in closer to her. "Now tell us where it is." He said something in Chinese, and the man she had first seen in the kitchen moved close in front of her. He had a knife, her own sharp utility knife. He slid it up along her jawbone, then sliced down and out hard. "Tell us." The doors were slamming shut, one after another. Marge could feel herself shutting out the pain, shutting out the terror, just as she always had with her father, just as she always had with Frank for all these years. She didn't know what they wanted or where it was, but even if she did, they would never get it from her now. "Tell us."